Hello, my name is Kirralie Boyd and I'm a mother of two and a member of the Adelaide Hills Climate Action Group. Thank you very much for your work here. I'm also just wanting to say how best can we express as being members of the public that are really keen to make whatever sacrifice is necessary to implement the mitigation that will avoid catastrophic change. And also, what about policies on new developments, such as encouraging any new developments to use 100% green energy or invest in renewable energies, such as the Roxby Down mine expansion, which is said to be using as much energy as all of the households in the Adelaide metropolitan area combined. Policies also with working with the international communities such as Indonesia, who are doing massive deforestation, which is then exposing peat bog area, which is just a ridiculous amount of carbon emissions. So I'm just interested in your thoughts about policies such as those.
I think the most important thing for the community to do in the crucial year ahead is to let all of our political leaders know that we think these matters are important. We're going to go through a crucial period of decision making in which all of our governments, federal and state, are subject to huge pressures, including from interests that don't want anything to be done about the problem, or don't want anything effective to be done about the problem in a timely way. The most important thing for members of our community to do is to let their views be known in the political process, because otherwise we will take fateful decisions over the next couple of years not to deal with the problem. On how can we encourage the use of renewables and low emissions technologies more broadly. We mentioned the big case of Roxby Downs. The emissions trading scheme will add considerably to the incentives for companies in that sort of situation to use renewable sources. They'll have to pay a lot for, if the system is designed correctly, we'll have to pay a lot to use non-renewable sources of power emitting greenhouse gases, and so that will help to lead to decisions in favour of low emissions technologies. And I understand there's a lot of discussion of that in relation to South Australian mining right at the moment. On the building codes, that's an important part of the story. We've got a chapter of the draft report on energy efficiency and information barriers, and I think that's very relevant to those planning code issues that you raised.
And Ross, just the last one about deforestation.
Oh, sorry. Yes, I see a lot of importance attaching to avoiding deforestation and encouraging afforestation and reforestation in the developing countries in Australia's neighbourhood, and Indonesia and Papua New Guinea are big ones, even on a global scale, where Indonesia is in absolute terms the world's third biggest emitter of greenhouse gases after the United States and China and the United States, mostly because of its very large deforestation. And I'm pleased that the Australian government is engaged in discussions with Indonesia and Papua New Guinea on these matters. I think that our emissions trading scheme and the opportunity to sell permits into the Australian market and to other developed country markets can help provide the incentives that will lock in place different policies in developing countries where deforestation is a big issue. And I think that's a very important part of the process.
Thank you.
Hello, thank you very much for your work. My name is Gabrielle Kelly and I'm a filmmaker making a film on global systems change. I'm really interested in the compression of the time frame that you talked about. We did lose that last 10 years. The science was known before and we weren't able to politically move forward to the position that we're at. So So I'm interested, with your experience in trade liberalisation in the 80s, your experience of big economic shifts in behaviour in life, and our combined experience in the way the Marshall Plan worked, and the fact that we know that human beings usually don't change unless they have to. Do you think there's any possibility that Australia might be able to move out of its position in the middle of the pack with its work that we're doing now to a modelling position, if you like, global best practice, and actually moving this through to a final lot of systems changes that actually do affect, that we actually do take the structural readjustment and change ahead of the pack? Do you think that's possible? Because it seems to me somebody's got to model how to do that if we're seriously going to attract China, for instance, into the possibility of this.
Yeah, well, we do need global models of how it can work without great damage to standards of living. I don't think there's any chance of us leading the pack because others have already done that. Norway, for example, with its commitment to a zero emissions economy in a relatively short time frame. So the best we can hope for is that we're not a drag on the pack, and listening to some of the Australian debate, stopping us being a drag on the developed country effort will be an initial achievement.
Hello, my name is Mark Sutton. Professor, you say that there are dire consequences for us not going ahead with global warming policies. You mentioned things like Kakadu will be destroyed, the Great Barrier Reef will be ruined. I've heard heat-related problems will cause thousands of deaths. Well, Professor, I'm old enough to recall back in the mid-70s when we were told similar things, similar dire warnings for a problem called global cooling. I'll mention some of the dire predictions. Europe and North America will be covered in a permafrost and crops will fail. Disease and starvation will be rife. Millions of people will perish in smog in Los Angeles and New York. The population of North America will fall to 20 million. I'm not making these up, these are documented. My question is, Europe and North America was not covered in permafrost. Crops did not fail. There was not mass starvation through Europe and North America. Millions of people did not die, and the population of America actually increased. My question is, how can we be expected to believe these environmentalists and United Nations scientists with this track record on catastrophic predictions? Thank you.
Well, I don't recall the academies of science of all of the countries of substantial scientific achievement predicting that the population of America would fall to 20 million. We have a different scientific base for what is being said now. We did have just 2 weeks ago a submission from the Academies of Science of all of the G8 countries, all the big countries of the world. In addition, from the Academies of Science in China and India, the Australian Academy of Science joined that effort, drawing attention to the high risks of dangerous climate change. I don't think we should confuse what at the moment is a very strong majority opinion from mainstream science with views, sometimes extreme views by some people at brilliant times. As I said at the beginning, there is a small part of reputed relevant scientific opinion that doesn't doubt the existence of the greenhouse effect and of warming, but does raise questions about its importance relative to many other factors that affect climate. They are legitimate opinions, they are minority opinions, and for someone who's not a climate scientist like me, maybe you are a climate scientist, but someone who's not a climate scientist like me, I don't think it is rational not to take the view that on a balance of probabilities, the large majority of mainstream scientific opinion is right.